I'm Matt Reynolds, and this is my podcast.
I can do the job, but running the business is quite difficult. What a lot of tradesmen lack, and I was probably one of them, is business skills.
I don't mind making mistakes. You learn from your mistakes.
Information is all around you in the minds of people that work beside you.
This is episode 4 of Trench Talk. I'm Matt Reynolds. This morning, I sat down with Ross Savas, director of Burton, a real estate agency here in Melbourne that has built a reputation for facilitating the sales of this state's most exclusive and prestigious homes. Ross works globally and is widely recognised as one of Australia's most influential agents. He walked into a real estate office for the first time at 15 years old, with big ambitions, a work ethic to match, and a dedication to learning that continues today. He earned his own office and a car spot with that company before he was even old enough to drive. In 2010, Ross broke the record for the sale of the most expensive residential property in Victoria, the Portsea estate named DeLuca, which sold for $27 million. We discussed the downside of sleeping only 2 to 3 hours a night, the importance of investing in people, the long game in business, and his current role leading a company with over 100 employees. Now, about 2 minutes before we conclude this interview, you'll notice a change in audio quality. I learned a valuable lesson during this chat. Always ensure you have enough room on your recording device to capture the whole thing, which in this case, I didn't. Fortunately, I do record in 3 places just to cover myself, and luckily, my technical blunder doesn't detract at all from the interview, which is full of both personal and business growth insights. Enjoy my chat with Ross Savas. Ross Savas, thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, we're in your boardroom at Burton head office in South Yarra, where you've been a director since 2001.
Correct.
Is that right?
Absolutely. April 2001, I've bought my first tranche of shares, and from there I very quickly became an equal partner here with Gerald Delaney and Mike Gibson, and we've been partners here for ever since, so a very long time.
Does the option to buy in, is that offered based on performance?
So it's interesting. There is a raft of criteria,
okay,
and that criteria really was driven by Gerald and Mike, and its performance is only one of the criteria. I think it's the way you represent the brand values, the way you mix with your team, and how you add to the culture, and what other qualities and leadership you bring to the business. And I think when we look at partners and directors, we're looking, of course, we want great leaders. We want people who will obviously mentor our people and make them, great. We also look at, of course, performance is one of the criteria, but it's not the only criteria.
Okay.
I think we can get caught up on performance, and, there's been many times you can have a superstar who's impossible to manage and, upsets everyone and doesn't add to the team or to the culture of the business.
And how do you best manage those people? Because you see that in sports teams and that a lot, where performance can, I suppose, excuse a lot of other behaviour.
So I did a one day with Clark Morgan of UBS and Jeff Stanson. They now run, they bought it out and run Crestone. And he said, Clark stood up, and we asked him a similar question, and this is how he answered it. He said, well, we had a superstar here, and we made all of the excuses for him because of his performance. And one day he said, he came in and he was, mates at Vans, and Clark said to him, look, I'm sorry, this is it. And he said, what happened was phenomenal. What happened next? And I said, what happened next? And he said, a lot of money walked out the door. And he said everyone else in the business rose to the occasion.
Oh, wow.
And we created even a bigger business with that person gone, because he held back most people and intimidated most people, and most people didn't think they could achieve, their greatness with him around. So it lifted the whole business. And so I think you've got to manage superstars, and you've got to put a lot of time, effort and mentor them. And some you'll succeed with and some you won't succeed with, because they, for whatever reason, have a one-track mind, and you will find that no matter how much time you spend with them or how much you influence them, unfortunately, it might not work, and you might find that at the end they leave anyway. So it's all about managing people and investing, and I think investing in them on a personal level and investing in them on a business level. So on a business level, what I mean is, you can send them to different courses, you can ask them to attend just different courses that will influence them in different ways. So it might not be a business course, it might be a psychology course where, you go deeper and you find out a lot more about yourself and your personality and, some of your drivers. And, you might have a light bulb moment where you think, wow, I never thought of it like this. And because you've got someone else telling you that's probably not a Kay and Burton person, and in some ways, that can work quite well with some of these, what I call more complicated characters.
Okay. And it's almost like early in your career, the very things that make you successful in a lot of ways are also your downfall later on. So how important is it to be aware of that and to continue to grow?
It's imperative. I have a saying, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
So I get up most mornings at 4:30 and I'll read for 90 minutes every day.
Yeah.
That's 7 days a week. And I read all different things, not just business things. I read things about, history, people, psychology, leadership, because I believe that you need to improve every day and you need to be the best at what you can be for your people. Yep. Because really at the end, you're leading your people, and you want to be a great leader and you want to make them great. And to me, I say my partners and I are here for Kay and Burton. We're looking after the brand. We're only the custodians of the brand for the next generation, because we want to pass over this great business to them, in great shape, better shape than when we took it over. And I'd like to see this business keep developing, growing for the next 200 years.
I want to come back to your mornings in just a minute, but can you describe what your brand stands for? Because you guys are not, you're a real estate agency, but you're not a run-of-the-mill real estate agency.
Sure. I think I look at ourselves as, trusted advisors. I also look at ourselves as relationship people. So there's many times that we've gone to people, and I have to tell you, 2 Sundays ago, I was referred to a chap. He's an orthopaedic surgeon, and he said, look, I'd like to sell this property. And I met him on a Sunday, and I said, well, why do you want to sell it? And he said, well, market's good, and, I thought I'd sell it, cash in, and, and I said, well, what I'd like to see you do is not sell it. And I think this property, it's so well positioned in a great street, and I'd like to see you accumulate. And you're in a very fortunate position, being a specialist, that market forces won't really affect you, because your business model will not change with, if the economy gets, tighter. He said, that's right. And I said, so you're going to have good cash flow throughout your life. I'd like you to keep accumulating. I said, because selling, then what are you going to do with the money? You're going to pay tax on it, and then you'll have to reinvest it. And I said, coming in and out of real estate, the in costs and out costs are very expensive. I said, I would like you just to keep accumulating. He came away and he rang me and he said, I've never had advice like that by anyone. He said, most people would say, sell it because that's how you make money, to sell. And I said, no, but that's not the right advice for you. The right advice for you is to keep accumulating. So we might market and sell some of the finest homes and lifestyle properties in the state of Victoria, but we're really in the relationship business, and we want to invest in our customers and our clients who are very loyal to us. And we've been fortunate to deal with, perhaps the grandfather and then the children, and now we're dealing with the grandchildren. So it's a really beautiful business, because we get to know people really well, and there's a very trusted relationship.
And how do you go about protecting that brand? Because one of the good things about doing these type of interviews is that we've known each other for quite a while, but you go looking for information and find out stuff that you wouldn't otherwise have known. I found an article yesterday which said that you actually had one of your co-workers sell his Ferrari because it didn't fit in with your brand.
True. It's true, and he's a great friend of mine, and he's a great fella. And I thought that, in actual fact, that he loves cars, and I said to him, "There's no problem about loving cars, but you can't drive this car as a everyday car." And it was a really nice conversation because we've been friends for such a long time. And he said, "You know what? I've driven it for a little while now. I've enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it that much." And he sold it, and really he saw the point that I think you've got to be very careful in the image you portray, no matter how successful you are in Melbourne, because we're basically very conservative here in Melbourne, and I think the best place to be is to, if he wants to invest that sort of money, I told him to buy some more real estate, and he laughed and he said, "You're absolutely right." And he has done that, by the way. And he said to me that he went through a little phase where, he wanted to have a toy, and I think you can have a toy and drive it on a Sunday, and I think there's anything wrong with that. But to drive it as an everyday car, maybe you can do that in cities like perhaps LA or other places in the world, but I don't think it's as accessible, really the thing to do in our very conservative city of Melbourne.
So when you pull up to a client's house in that car, why is that a bad thing for your brand?
I think it's really, for us, we're not flash. We're considered. I suppose we're very considered people, and you can be flash. And I think I drive a Range Rover, and it's just for me, that's a really safe car, and it's a big car, and the way I think about it is if it's great for the Queen and the royal family, it's got to be really good for me. So I'd rather think of it that way. And and I think that there's nothing wrong with having a love for cars, but when you're in a professional services business, I think it's there is a point where you just have to be more conservative. That's all.
Okay, so you want going back to the brand. That is, you want to be at the highest level without the show.
Without the flash.
Without the flash.
Yeah, I think we have great values here, great integrity. We're long-term, we're really long-term thinkers. And, as I said, we become families' trusted real estate advisors. And for a long time, we've acted for successful families and individuals, in and out of Australia. And we've been very fortunate. And I think not being flash is part of our sort of value proposition.
Okay. And I found another thing online which I wanted to ask you about.
Sure, ask.
I'm really fascinated with the work ethic of high-performing people. Mm-hmm. And I understand that you, very early in your career, trained yourself out of sleep so you could spend more time working.
Yeah.
You're nodding, so that's true?
It is true.
How did you do it?
Wow, it's a really deep question. So I worked out that if you slept less, you could deal with the overseas market a lot more because it's different times and we're in different time zones. So I figured that if I could get 3 hours sleep, for example, a night, I can, do a lot more work, and I could keep building what I call a global relationship database. And really, that really is talking to people in their time zone and really having much more meaningful and deep conversations, which sometimes can take 30 minutes and sometimes can take an hour. And so I absolutely over, I suppose, a 2 or 3 year journey, and I trained myself really to stay up and live on less sleep. Unfortunately for me, it had some quite interesting health ramifications.
I did find a couple of those as well.
Yeah. So I actually got a fast heartbeat, and they couldn't find out what caused it. And I went to some amazing specialists here, and then we did a sleep test. And after the sleep test at Epworth Hospital, the professor said, "You need to come to my office immediately." And I said, "Well," I thought, we have a consultation afterwards, and the nurse said, you're going directly to the professor's office. And he said to me...
it sounds like going to the principal's office.
Well, it was a pretty interesting conversation, and I walked in and he said, you really shouldn't be here. And I said, oh, does that mean... I knew exactly what he meant, but I said, well, you want me to come back another day? He said, sit down. And he gave me, he read me the right act, and he said, you're sleeping 2 to 3 hours a night. I said, I can see, we can see, you can't fudge this. We see the activity. And I said, yeah, I've trained myself. He said, well, let me tell you, if you don't retrain yourself, you won't be here for much longer. And he said, your body can't keep up, with your mind, and it's not healthy. And quite frankly, I retrained myself. Now I sleep 6 hours a night, and I haven't had that problem. And I'm very happy that I haven't had that problem, because it was quite unnerving to get, such a rapid and fast heartbeat while I could have been sitting here talking to you, and suddenly my heartbeat would race. And that was just my body saying to me, it's not coping with lack of sleep.
Is that early, like arrhythmia or something like that? Is that?
Yeah, tachycardia. But
right, yeah.
It was like sitting here and someone putting their foot down on the accelerator, and your heart would...
You could feel that?
Absolutely, you could feel it. It was incredible. It was seriously incredibly scary.
And how long did that go on before you had the sleep test?
I had 6 episodes in 1 year.
Right.
And they were 6 very scary episodes. And I would never have thought it was that. I actually never. And, I spent a week in the Epworth Hospital, and they checked everything out, and they said, we can't find anything. But I had 6 separate episodes, and one actually emergency expert specialist at Epworth said, I think it could be you're just a workaholic and you need to have more of a balance. And I said to her, no, it can't be that. It's impossible.
I'm only working 21 or 22 hours a day. What are you talking about?
I love what I do. It's like every day's a holiday. And she was looking at me saying, I'm not getting through to you. You need to slow down, And I say, but I feel great. I did. I actually felt.
Except for those episodes, you felt good.
I felt great.
Okay.
I really felt great, and it's different, being at home, being on the phone, and talking to people internationally, rather than being in your office in your suit and tie, and it's quite relaxing, and you're in a nice environment, and you're talking to people and trying to help them move from London or New York or Singapore or Hong Kong into Australia. And it's a really nice thing, and you're assisting their kids getting into schools, and you're organising short-term accommodation till they buy their house, and it's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So for me, I was loving it, but I didn't realise the ramifications of the lack of sleep. And quite frankly, if you look at all the studies since, sleep is imperative, and we need it.
This is another really common pattern that I'm seeing, is that people find themselves, like you did, something you really love doing, you take it to the extreme, and then you reevaluate and bring it back in terms of sleep to about that 6 hours. And that seems to be about where a lot of really top-level people seem to settle at. So it's an interesting pattern, but it always comes up in these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I found it unusual, because I couldn't wait to get out of bed and do things and come to work, and we've just got you meet such amazing people in our business, and it's exciting, and you're building great relationships all the time, and people are relying on you to help them, and it's really quite empowering, and it really is this business. I think I pinch myself every day, because I think, wow, what a great business that we're in, and you get to know people and their families, and you see their children grow up, and then you're giving your children advice on, buying, their first house or their first apartment, and then, they're buying their second one and moving on, and they're getting married and having children, and it's a great cycle. And a great friend of mine, his son was talking to me a while ago, and we were assisting him buying his first apartment.
Okay.
And he said, I studied law and I'm working for this law firm and blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh yeah. And I said, how's it going there? He says, good. He says, but I want to progress and I want to do this different area of law, and we're not really big. Our firm's not really big in this area of law. Anyway, I was dealing with a chap who's come back from New York and runs a major law firm here in Australia, and I mentioned, and I said, look, maybe you can mentor this fellow, and can I connect you? And he said, absolutely, please get him to call me. And they had lunch, and now he's working for this amazing law firm in the area of law that he wants, and he's so happy. And you know what? What a wonderful thing that is, that we can help and we can through relationships really add value to someone else's life.
I think that when you work, as we both do, in other people's homes every day of the week, it's a very intimate transaction in a lot of ways. And if you learn to be observant and ask questions, I think that you can actually learn a lot and really add value in those ways. So it's it's interesting that you take that approach. When we hear about real estate through the mainstream media and that sort of thing, we always talk about price, right? How is price a factor? Is it any different at the top end of the market? I mean, you've sold places that are north of the $20 million mark.
Sure.
So is the difference between 21 and $21.1 million the same thing as the difference between $500,000 and $600,000?
Look, I think price is important at all levels of the market, and our job is to create a market around a particular property, to take the interest and to create competition, and competition drives price. And I think it's very important at any level of the market. And, I think that people who you act for know you well enough that they know that you're there to do the very best job. And I think that's so important, that we do whatever it takes to create a market where you get 2 or 3 people competing for that particular property, and then the market really takes care of itself. We've done our job, really.
Yeah.
So, for example, tonight we're about to sell a property in Albany Road, and we've got an expression of interest closing on Friday, and we're going to have a private auction in their dining room.
Yes.
And there's probably 3 or 4 people who are interested in the property. Where we're going to drive a transparent process where we're putting it on the market at north of $7 million, and the market and the competition will drive it. Now, it could drive it a long way, and it might drive it a little way. We don't know. But really the essence is we've been able to attract different people from different parts of the world for this property, and the competition will then will drive this price. And hopefully it'll drive it a long way for us and our vendors.
So that is a fairly... I mean, if you've got people sitting around a table, kitchen table, just like...
Dining room table, just like this.
Just like this one. That is a pretty... is it high-pressure situation?
It's intense. But you can see each other.
Yes. You
know that the property is on the market for unreserved sale, and so... You might bid 7.1 and someone might bid 7,150,000, someone might bid 7.2, and you can see each other.
Yeah.
So it's up to you what you bid and how you bid.
Yes.
We're playing for keeps, because where the bidding stops, the property will be sold.
Just adds that little bit of extra sort of intensity element, right?
It does. And really, for us, to see these sort of situations occur for our vendors is great, because we've managed to attract different buyers, and some are from within Australia and some are from different parts of the world, and they will compete.
Yeah.
and they will drive the price where they feel comfortable, I suppose. But it's totally transparent.
And when you're in that situation, and because you're dealing with a lot of the time the family home,
yes,
if it's not the most valuable asset that people have, it's quite high.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming that it's pretty important to be able to sense the energy, read people, pick up on the non-verbal stuff. Do you have any? What do you look for? Do you have a technique in what you're trying to create?
It's really interesting.
Don't give away your latest secrets. Give away the ones that you don't.
Look, there's no secret to it. I think negotiation is experience, and really, I think the more experience you have and the more negotiations you have, the better off you are. And look, one thing about Kane Burton and our people is we do this every day. And we deal in rarefied numbers every day. And we're good at it because we do it every day. It's like a specialist. He's not trying to be all things to all people. He's an orthopaedic specialist, and that's what he does every day. So when a situation arises, he's probably seen it before and he knows how to handle it. He's not new to it. Now, there are agencies out there that occasionally will come in and sell a big home and then go back at what I call the high turnover area of the market. Well, for me, that's a high risk strategy. I'd always want to go to a specialist and have a specialist managing my single biggest asset or close to it.
Yes.
Because if something does happen or a negotiation is difficult, they are more than likely seen it before, handled it, and can do it with great ease, comfort, and in a more, I would suggest, relaxed manner, which gives everyone else confidence.
Because numbers alone can make people do funny things under pressure, right?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen anything unusual? I mean, we've seen a lot of things unusual at auctions. Have you seen anything that stands out as crazy, something you weren't expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I bid for someone many years ago, and I bid for a family who really wanted this property. They were incredibly successful, and I took the bidding and took on some pretty fierce competition. And at the end of it, I got abused by the underbidder, and they were irate that I was able to maybe overcome them with my confidence and my knowledge. And they were very, very upset they missed out. And I didn't think their reaction was worthwhile because it was an open forum, it was a public auction, they could have kept bidding. But I suppose because I do this every day and I read the play, I could see how nervous they were. And, I was pretty aggressive in my bidding. I stood up the front with the auctioneer. I wasn't looking at the auctioneer, I was looking at them. I knew they were my competition, and the way I bid was every time they bid or they were about to bid, I'd bid over them. So, so it was quite intimidating, I suppose, but my job was there to buy the property for the person that I was acting for. Simple as that. And they got pretty irate after the auction, and I was obviously remained very calm and said, I'm very sorry you missed out, but, I'm sure there'll be another house for you, which I think made them more irate.
Yeah. And is that's not the only strategy, I would assume, in that process?
You've got to read the play, but you've got to be confident in what you're doing. You've got to know when to turn left, when to turn right, and it's very, very important to read the play, and experience helps you read the play. And look, after you've been in the business, I suppose, a few decades, you do get a feel. And I say, I feel we should do this. I feel we should do that. I feel this is the best way to approach this negotiation. And quite frankly, it's experience talking. That's all it is. And
okay, so there's not a checklist that you go through in your mind. It's more a feeling that you draw on your experience and act in the moment.
Yeah, I think that's very important, to feel your way through it and to make sure you're drawing on your years of experience to really make the right decision. Okay. And I think that's very, very important. And again, I'll go back to it. If you do it every day, and, I think that being in top-end real estate for over 3 decades, and I have, Gerald Laney, my partner, and Mike, who have been in it over 4 decades, you really can draw on that experience as well. And you can say, look, this is what I think, what do you think?
Yep.
I mean, if you look at, I think, Gerald's been doing it for 45 years and Mike's 42 and I'm 33, and Peter Goodell, our other partner here, is been in it for 33 years. So there's a lot of experience in the room,
Yes.
and it's great to be able to share that experience together and see how you can assist one another in situations.
So if I was able to convince you that to give me a job here, start selling real estate, what would be the first thing that you'd have me do?
So I think for us it's very important that you learn about our values, you learn about our culture, you learn about we're really relationship builders, we're trusted advisors here. So we're not about just turning over real estate. It's not about that. We believe one size does not fit all. We believe every property we handle is an individual property, and I'd get you for the first 3 years just to learn.
Okay.
And I would put you with different people, and you'd have a learning process which is pretty intense and very difficult. You wouldn't be allowed on the field on your own. You'd always have someone, would be a senior person, and I'd get you to learn really what we're all about. And it would take you probably 3 years to do that.
What does it take the average person?
A lot longer, unfortunately. Look, we probably sometimes invest 10 years in an individual to get them really to be, a standalone salesperson here. When some people may do it, sooner than that, but it's a Kane Burton. It's really a long learning process and a long journey, and it's a big investment for us. So we're investing in you all the time over that journey, and we rarely have hired people from outside the business. We organically grow within the business because we believe culture and the way we think and the way we do things is very different from perhaps others. And really, I talk about the magic of Kane Burton. People think I'm crazy because, what's this magic, And the magic is that, this brand has been built over many, many decades. We started in 1938 and really we've been very singly minded focused on selling, good quality real estate no matter where it is, and advising people no matter, where they are. And it's really the long game, and it's not about short-term wins. It's really not. It's a business that we want, to keep investing in our people. Therefore, we want to keep investing in our clients and making sure they've got the very best advice.
It's interesting you say that, because I sat down with Justin Burgoyne recently, who runs and family owns Kincrome, huge multinational tool business. And I asked him about recruitment, and he almost lit up when we talked about bringing the people through the business, if you like, and seeing them grow, and having people with you for a long period of time. So it's interesting with that philosophy about how much leaders of companies, if you like, really look at business as their own family, and you want to see it grow and you want to see it develop.
But I want to see our people develop and grow, and I say they're part of the Kane Burton family, and I think that if you're not investing in your people and you're not investing and making them better and helping them grow, what are you doing? There was a classic example, and I think it was about 19 or 21, in that age group, and I went to a seminar, and this guy owned the Beechworth Bakery, and he said, "Look,
Tom O'Toole."
Yeah,
I've heard of him.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
and he said, I told them we've got to train our people and make them better, and they said, "My God," he said, "how about if they train them and they leave?" And he said, "How about if you don't train them and they stay?"
Yeah, I remember the exact same line.
It's stuck with me forever, and quite frankly, I think that you've got to invest heavily in your people, and you've got to assist them to grow, and you've got to, you've got to really mentor them, and they're our future leaders, and some of them are doing such incredibly well. There's some amazing success stories within Kane Burton, and they make me proud every day, every single day, and we are blessed to be surrounded with such wonderful people, and I think that's part of the magic and part of the power of the brand.
So where does this passion from real estate come from? Because you grew up in Canterbury.
Yeah.
You were in a real estate office by age 17.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why real estate? Why you? Why the passion?
So my mum and dad were in the fish business, and actually Northbourne was our home, and then my dad died. I was only 12, and it was difficult, you know. My mother had to be mum and dad and run a business, and she's incredibly successful, and, you know, I kept looking at other successful people, and although she wanted me to go and study law, I received the first copy of the BRW 200 Rich.
Collected that one all.
Yeah, I've got it. I've still got it. And it was all the very wealthy people seem to be in property. I've always had a great love of architecture. So I went and applied for a job at Jones Lang Wood when I was very young, and I met a guy called Kerry Woolston, and he was an incredible person who, after some really interesting conversation with me. I was only 15 at the time, and he said, "Come and see me." And I went and saw him, and he said, "You got 15 minutes?" And I spoke for 3.5 hours, and we had lunch in his office. He had a huge office, and an incredible human being. And he said, "In 2 years, I'll offer you a job, but you've got to go and do your real estate course, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that." I did exactly what he told me to do. In 2 years to the day, he offered me a job, and that's how I started. So 23rd floor, 500 Collins Street, and I had a car spot, but I didn't have a car because I wasn't old enough, and I was still studying. And you know, I started off, you know, in their retail area of their business, and it was fantastic. It was a very big organisation, and
commercial,
yeah,
right, yeah.
Right. And there was a superstar there. It was an incredible person. Hank Schulte ran the business, and Chris Marks was the golden haired boy, and I used to always, if I could take 5 minutes a day and spend with him, or 3 or 1, or, you know, I'd always go and see him and tell me about this deal that he's working on and that deal, and it was fantastic, and I really loved my time there. But commercial real estate, I felt, wasn't quite right for me, and it was a very big organisation, and although they really wanted me to stay on and keep on their graduate program there, I felt that residential was great, and I got into the residential market, and I just loved it. And I loved the people, I loved the diversity of homes that we were selling, and I loved the way you met fascinating people and built incredible relationships. And the guy that I first sold a house for and to are still clients, and
really,
yeah, they're absolutely great clients and great friends, and we laugh about them. Actually, having dinner with one of them, the buyer, tomorrow night. And
really.
So that's a very old relationship.
And what property did you?
That was a property. I actually door knocked it, and it was 107 Mont Albert Road in Canterbury.
Okay.
And I door knocked it, and we did a deal there about, I think it was 85.
Right, okay.
February 85. So it sort of got me going, and I sold it to a lawyer, and he sent me some more clients, which I found them homes, and then they sent me some more clients, and it was great. It was really a really wonderful way to start, and it was fantastic. I enjoyed every moment of it, as I do today, and I still get excited, and I'm as still passionate as I was then, and I think seeing people become successful here, and seeing how we can influence people by helping them in different, you know, walks of life is fantastic, and to me, I get great enjoyment out of it.
And you still have the same feeling today. I actually had that written down to ask you that. So
yeah, no, I do. I love it. I wouldn't do anything else. And I think today, mentoring people, and they don't have to be just at Kane Burton. People ask me to mentor them from other businesses and other walks of life. And every time I've taken one on, and you know, I've seen some changes and some positive changes. It's been fabulous. So yeah, it's been a great journey.
So back when you were 17, you loved real estate and you got into it. Did you envisage yourself, running a company like this one day?
I think you always dream, and I have a very close affiliation with the Oberoi family, and Mr. Oberoi Senior wrote a book, Dare to Dream, and he said, "If you're going to dream, make sure they're big."
Yeah.
And I get inspiration from him because he was incredibly poor, and matter of fact, he was cleaning hotels' floors, and now they run probably one of the best and most prestigious hotel chains in the world. And he worked incredibly hard, and he just wanted to be the best at what he did. And I suppose I had a dream to keep growing and developing, and hopefully one day be a good enough leader to sit in the seat where Gerald sat and lead the organisation. And that gave me, that was my dream, and that was my desire. And it comes with obviously different challenges from, when you're 17 to now. Yes. And 33 years later, I think it's a great feeling. And as I said, I love every moment of it.
And did you write that down? Was it a thought? You seem like you're a pretty goal-driven and oriented person. Was it documented, or?
Yeah, I at my early stages, I documented a lot of my desires and dreams and goals.
Yeah.
And probably as I grew and became more experienced, and I created a shorter list of desires and goals, and concentrated on that list. And I think if I look back at it, I always had very big goals and very big dreams and very big desires, but I had a work ethic to match it. And people say to me, we went to that party, you remember that party? I said, I wasn't there. They said, no, you were there. I said, no, I didn't go. I was working. But it was a Saturday night. I said, yeah, I was working. And people say, how about the holiday? That holiday we were on. And I say, well, that holiday was, I wasn't there, I was working. And, people don't realise how much effort you actually put in and the cost. And I used to get laryngitis because I used to talk so much, and then I couldn't talk for a few days. But that's what happens in life. You just got to keep going for it, and you've got to keep working towards your goals. And there's no shortcuts. It's just a lot of hard work.
You have a very extensive network, of which there are many, includes many successful people. Have any of them not had that period in their life where they just put their head down and put their bum, stick their bum up and get busy? I
think in life, no matter what your level you are, you've got to be consistent, you've got to be focused, and really you've got to work damn hard. If you want to be an elite athlete, you've got to work hard. You want to be an elite business person, you've got to work hard. A friend of mine about 10 years ago said about trying to be an elite human being, and he blew me away. And I think that's really interesting, and I think that encompasses everything. So I feel that my role is to assist others become successful, and to impart my knowledge, and watch out for those pitfalls of no sleep and singly minded focus.
In addition to your 90 minutes of morning reading that you do every day, is there anything else that you do outside of here which you feel gets you in that elite state?
Yeah, I think you've got to keep learning, you've got to keep attending courses, you've got to keep travelling, and you've got to keep looking at other businesses and looking at other business models and seeing, what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, and what you can implement into your business. And I think that is imperative, because without that, as I said, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I think growing doesn't mean just expanding. Growing means, growing your knowledge. Knowledge is power.
In 2010, you broke the Victorian property record for a sale in Portsea, 26 million.
Yeah, I think it was 27 actually, but that's okay.
27, I'm selling you short.
Yeah.
Apologies. Is that the first record that you broke?
No, It isn't, but it's a significant milestone because there's never been a property. It was a beach house. It was called a Luca in Portsea, and it's an incredible property. And the lady that owned it, who's a long-term client and friend, entrusted me with the marketing of it. We marketed it around the world, and it brought an incredible result. We made a film about it, and the fellow that eventually bought it saw the film. He wouldn't come and have a look, and he ran in. We went down there, and he basically bought it on the spot after seeing that film. And I've got to say, we had incredible interest in that property from all over the world, which people didn't believe. They didn't think that could happen, and it did happen because we created that marketing program, and we drove the excitement. And after we sold it, I went home and sat on the couch, and I've got to tell you, I was just, it was exhausting, and I was relieved and happy and excited all at the same time.
And have you broken records since then? I feel like I should ask.
Yeah,
you have before.
We've been involved in sales that have been close to that, but there's been nothing that's sold in Melbourne residentially for $27 million.
So does that record still stand?
It does.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it does still stand.
Good. Current record holder. I actually didn't realise that. Because that property, unless I am mistaken, is that sold again since?
No, it hasn't been sold. No.
Okay, I thought it was sold again.
No, it hasn't been sold.
Do you have any advice for young men, young women beginning their working lives who are dedicated to having a successful career and being a better person?
Get a coach, get a mentor. Anyone great in sport has a coach. They have a mentor and accountability, and keep focused. You're going to have ups and downs in life. Life will throw you curveballs. You've got to keep going for it. Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, just keep going and you'll get to the other side. And life it's ups and downs. There could be health problems, there could be other issues. You just got to keep focused and keep going, because there's always going to be stumbling blocks. There's going to be roadblocks. And you got to keep going, and you got to keep going. You got to keep positive, and you'll get there. And you've got to get there with people around you who will support you, and show you the right road to take. And there's no embarrassment in asking for help. We're all here to help each other. As I say, one hand washes the other, and you can't beat experience. And remember what I said: knowledge is power.
Yeah. Who's been the biggest influence on your career?
Look, I have to say there's been many.
Okay.
And there's been many great businessmen and women. There's been great friends, and there's been lots of them who have at times pulled me inside and said, look, I think you're working too much, or you think you should be focused on this, or I think you should go and do this course, or you should go and do that. And I've been open to learning, and I think you've got to be open to learning, and I think you've got to be open to people approaching you and taking it the right way if they're giving you some pearls of wisdom, because they've been there and done that, a lot of these people, and I think we can learn from them. You can learn from anyone, actually. You just got to be open to learning.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Just a couple more questions and we'll wrap up. If you could have one law changed, what would it be?
That's an interesting question. I think we're becoming a bit mad on compliance in this country.
I'm glad you said that. I agree.
And I have to say to you that we've just been hit with new laws on compliance, and I'm all for transparency. I'm all for absolute being factual when you're speaking to the public. Absolutely, but compliance is costing a fortune for businesses and small businesses and big businesses. The banks are spending hundreds of millions on compliance. I just feel that we're becoming a bit compliant mad, and I think we need to relax. I'm not suggesting not doing it the right way. What I am suggesting is it's a huge cost, and unfortunately that cost is going to be passed on to the consumer, and the consumer will pay for it. A bit like we're talking about the banks, and there's a new levy aimed at our banks. Personally, I'm not in favour of it. I think it's a tax, and that tax will be passed on to the public without a shadow of a doubt. We're going to pay for it.
All costs have to be passed on in some form or fashion eventually, don't they? Because businesses can't just keep absorbing and absorbing.
I'm all for a consumer-based tax. I'm all for raising the GST, and I'm all for lowering income tax. And I think that will drive people harder, and they'll invest more, and they'll do, we're a consumer-driven economy here, and quite frankly, it'll be great for our country. But unfortunately, the political landscape isn't allowing for that, and we're in interesting times. So, I'm watching this space very carefully.
Do you have any books or documentaries that you recommend, being an avid reader?
Yes, I recommend reading about people. I'm recommending reading about people and learning about their life and learning about their successes and their mistakes. And mistakes are not mistakes, they're learnings.
Yes.
Please, if there's anything we can impart to everyone, it's not a mistake, it's a learning.
Yeah.
Okay. And you got to have lots of learnings in life, right? And Walt Disney knocked on 360 banks, and they all said no. And he knocked on the 361 bank, and they said yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had what he achieved, Disneyland and everything that goes with it. So look, you know what? I think in this country, someone trips over and we say they've failed. Well, I say they've only failed when they stop trying, and never stop trying, never stop going for your goal. Be focused, bring people with you, and we'll achieve great things in this country.
Is there anything further that you wanted to add to that as parting words?
Yeah, my parting words are we live in the best, I think we live in the best city in the best country in the world.
I agree.
And we're in the right region. I think we've got amazing growth for the next 100 years. And the advances that we're going to make in technology and in medicine over the next 100 years will be like, I reckon, more advances than we probably made in the last 3,000 years. So we're in a great space and we're in a great country, and I think it's all good.
It's important to have that optimistic outlook, isn't it? Whichever angle you approach life, I think you serve yourself a lot if you can see tomorrow a little bit better than today.
Absolutely. And look, I've been fortunate to come Burton, to come here and to be with great partners and great team members and great people, and they've added to my life in such a positive way. And I've been fortunate to the people that I've met through business and friendships that have added to my life. And I've been really lucky, I think. And sometimes you meet people and they just say one word or two words or a sentence, and it resonates. And it's been a fantastic journey, and I'm very grateful to everyone who has supported me. I'm very grateful to all our friends and clients. And I say clients, they're really part of the family. I say we're all one big family, and I think if you treat people like that, you can never make any mistakes in thinking of yourself as anything too wonderful, because sometimes you can get ahead of yourself a bit, and it's all about friendship and family.
Speaking of things that stick with you, I remember that you told me a few years ago now that if you want to grow, you need to learn to delegate better. And I've never forgotten that. So there you go. There's an example.
Well, it's very true. And I've had people with me, Jamie Mee, Amanda Cheeseman, Andrew Sahar, immediate part of my team. They've been with me a decade or longer, and they're great people, and they make my life and my job seem easy. It's only because they're so wonderful and so amazing, and that's the whole team here is incredibly hardworking and incredibly focused, and I think success leaves clues.
Well, I'm going to let you get back to your day. And once again,
very much.
Thanks,
it's been
Ross,
an absolute pleasure.
Carving out some time.
And it's just, if I can say this, I think you're an inspirational human being, and you've got it. You've got the thing, and it's hard to explain what that thing is or what that it is, but you've got it, and whatever you put your mind to, you're going to be incredibly successful. And your success will keep growing and developing and going to higher places, because you have an inquisitive mind, you have an open heart, and people are attracted to that, and you have a warmth about you that people want to get to know you and want to help you in life, and you want to help people, and that's how it becomes, and that's what I call the magic of life. So thank you.
Thanks, Ross.
My pleasure.
Hey everybody, it's Matt again. Thanks for listening. Just a couple of things before you guys clock off. You can get all Trench Talk episodes at xrm.com.au/podcast. You can also sign up for other goodies at the same site. Just plonk your email in there and you are covered. That's X for X-ray, R for Romeo, M for Mike.com.au/podcast. mattreynolds.com/podcast. If you really like what I'm bringing you, please head to iTunes, subscribe to this show, and leave a review right there. And lastly, if you want to contact me directly, type the @ symbol followed by Mr. Matt Reynolds into your search bar and you'll find all the social links. Goodbye.